Now, the actual main project center piece has a couple key parts to it. We talked briefly about the document access and where you can put your plans and specs and photos all in there for everyone to have access to. The two other major pieces are going to be our cost management area and our project management area as well. Where we're going to start is with cost management. Now, as a quick note for, again, bringing this up, Sage 100 Contractor, this is the one piece that we don't yet have integrated. We have a targeted time frame for around March of next year. So do note this is coming down the pipeline, but for today, this is a Sage 300 CRE piece that you guys can look at. In this, I have access and connection back to all my jobs within job cost, and this will pull in a lot of information right from Sage. Right now, you're looking at my estimate screen where it's pulling in all of my job information from job cost to let me see what my estimate is, my budget is. It's going to pull in my contract information, whether or not this is just a lump sum, if that's the type of billing you're doing, or if you have an actual AIA contract like I have on this particular job. You're going to be able to see what the contract is, plus change orders, what's pending, approved, total billed amount, retainage balances, all within the contract, or broken down even further on the cost code overview, allowing you to say, here is my cost codes in general. What's been committed so far, what's been invoiced, what's the job cost to date on all this. And all of this information can then be expanded out to allow you to see, even above and beyond the cost code to the category level and the unitary level and run through there. Now, of course, as a project manager, you may just want to get a quick summary of the site. You can see all of your contract amount and estimate amount with job cost to date, pulling right in from your Sage, and again, with all the billing information and payment information down below. Now, I did see a question asking how this works with purchase orders and subcontractors, things like that. Well, we're not just limited on the cost management to the accounting numbers. We also have commitments too. This will pull in and bring all of our POs and subcontract commitments out of the system. It also lets us create them here in the cloud and push them back down. So in the case of this, I could have a subcontract or a purchase order be created from by a field guy and have it pushed back into the accounting system so everyone can use it and work with it. Think of this Ford Metals ink here. This is a purchase order that I created. It's linked back to my vendor in Sage 300. It's got particular commitment items to either my extra or to my cost code. But it also then brings back in later on what the invoiced amounts were, what's been paid. We can see all that from here because it is a direct connection with our Sage 300 CRE data set and soon to be 100 contractor data set. It is an extension of those modules, allowing you to get that project information anywhere you're at. Now, this wouldn't be complete if it didn't have change management. We can create commitment change orders right from the commitment, or going over to the main contract side of things, we can create owner change orders, change requests, RFPs, whatever you guys need to work through. We got the different types of cost events to cover that. But on the change order side, I can pull up and say, here are all of my pending change orders, and if I want to see them all, I can. I can track not just the status of me, the GC or the project manager, looking at this and knowing if I have approved it or not, but we can also allow your architects or your owners or other responsible parties to get in and put in their stamp of approval too. These can come right from RFIs, from punch lists, or just be created right here from the screen, allowing me to say what type of work am I doing, subject, scope of change, why did we change it, will there be any days that we need to work on, again, whether or not we want the owner or the architect to also put their stamps for approval. And in this case, I haven't actually created any cost events yet. Let's create one. Add our line here and say this is going to end up being a subcontract change, or actually let's say this is going to be a material change where we're going to add an extra 15 or 150 lump sum of materials. I know that's generic sounding, but we can add materials, put a markup. This is going to cost us per unit an extra $1,000, And we know that this is going to also be coming from a particular cost code or commitment as well. We save this all in the system. We could track it back to an extra if we need to. All this information is put through, we track it, and then we can take this information from here and send it directly into accounting once it's been fully approved. We sync it back in and it becomes available. And if you have any subcontractors or anyone else that need to be notified on it, you just go ahead and create a transmittal on there and send it on its way. That information tracking over into everywhere else allows this to be, completely integrated in with your Sage accounting data, and there's still more to come. We're constantly working on building more integrations with Sage. Now, the day-to-day work in Project Center is going to be handled in the project management section here, as well as the app, which I'll bring up in just a minute here. The project management section is going to give you access to all of your major project management documents and types of work to do. But think of this a little differently than what you may use historically with Sage 300 or Sage 100. And for anyone on Sage 100 Contractor, all this works great within the context of working with Sage 100 Contractor today. Same on Sage 300, as this stuff here all allows you to be very collaborative in the field for all your people. Think of RFI as an example. If you historically had an RFI log that you tracked and you needed to basically get emails from people, copy and paste those emails into your RFI log, track your own RFI log separately, notify people manually when they're not getting things done, then you probably have been in one of the systems that have been out there forever. We take another step forward, and I'm using RFI as an example because it's got a lot of collaborative pieces within here. I can come in and not only have my own contractor log, and this is my RFI log I could track, I could see when it's submitted, when it's due, what's open. I can even do searches and say, hey, I've got a question about a pipe. Is there anything in here about pipe? I type in pipe, I find all the different RFIs. Specifically, here's an open RFI right here. Here's some couple closed ones, but all that information is within. Let's take a look. Maybe I had to pull back this old buried pipe found in footing excavation, number 46. It's a closed RFI, but somebody's asking me a question about it. Let's go ahead and open that up. From here, I'm going to see a lot of information. For one, I can see that my architect had already looked at this and actually brought it up to their, questions on to their log, but it came originally from one of my subcontractors. This RFI no longer is something that you control. I mean, you control it completely, but it's no longer something that you have to do all the legwork for. We can have a subcontractor have their own RFI log. You set up a folder for them in the system. They have access to only that folder, and they can then log in, ask an RFI question for you. It sends it over from themselves to you. They cannot ask the architect. They can only ask the project manager. And they'll put in all their questions. They'll say, hey, I found this where a pipe while it was being excavated footing appears to be inactive. We'll skip that for a second. They can attach any files to this, reference documents that they have access to, and then send this over, transmit it to you, and you'll get an email. It says, hey, our subcontractor has a question for you. You click the email link. It takes you into the RFI. You can then answer it. Say, the question is something about specs and they don't see it, and the answer is you're looking at the document upside down or something silly. You can just put in the answer, done, save, sends it back to the subcontractor, doesn't even go to your RFI log because it's not important yet. However, in a question like this where you say, oh, you're right, what do we handle this? I'm not sure, I need to ask my architect. You click the forward button here, and it takes the RFI from theirs and brings it into your log, copies all the information, but then allows you to control it independently of theirs. So you can then send it to the architect, fix up the question, make it sound more professional, attach other documents that you think your architect's going to want to see. We can CC other people as well. Maybe you need to get an electrician involved or somebody to, maybe an assistant that wants to be CC'd on all these, and transmit that to your architect so you then have your own independent RFI separate from them, but linked together so you can always find one or the other. All the replies back and forth between all the different parties can come into the screen here, and when you find the actual answer you like, you select it, you hit close, it copies it to the answer, it emails all the respective parties on this RFI, and done. Closes the RFI for you. And that allows you to really be a lot more effective than just having that log that you track independently. You now have the ability through the site to be interactive with everyone and do everything through a central location. We also have the ability to track all of your submittals as well. And I'm not going to be able to hit on every single part of project management in this demonstration today, but I want to key in on RFIs and submittals, the two most common things people are looking for in these products. Mine's currently set up in 16 divisions. You can break yours down into the 46. You can just have a single folder. You can also give your subcontractors their own folders so that they can submit items to you through the software. All of this stuff's recorded in here so that we can then say, okay, I've got, actually let's go to one of my bigger ones here. I've got a lot of stuff in my concrete division here. We track everything by package. In a lot of systems today, everything's by item, which can get very quickly hard to read. You have all these items everywhere, and you've got to find all the different pieces. By tracking everything in a package and knowing how many open items are in each individual package, you could say, hey, I still got an open item in this one here. We have 3 different original items, concrete samples, drawings, shop drawings, and the first 2 have already been sent out for approval and approved by my architect. The third one, my shop drawings, have been revised and resubmitted, so we've been getting some notes on there, potentially, if I had actually typed any in. And we worked that down to be resubmitted. I can then send this as a secondary submittal item to the architect for approval once I make my changes to the item I'm submitting to them. But this gives us the ability to not just track everything individually, but we have a whole package, and we can see each of the individual items and track them all individually within the single package. That gives us a lot more range of understanding of what's going on with our product. And through this as well, we track all the transmittals that went to it. You can attach all the different files wherever they might be at, add new submittal items as it makes sense to get this stuff sent around. And as I go ahead and submit this over and create my transmittal and send it over to my architect, it'll generate an email to them. And if that architect is willing to work with me and log into the system, it gives them the ability to come right back into that package, return the item, and even give it the status and notes that he wants. Comes a completely collaborative system with everyone that you're working with. But let's take a step back to talk about how we can get these submittals in the system. The obvious thing is you can create your own submittals on the fly, say this is this package, here's the items, manually create them all, even copy one from another if they're very similar. But what if you want to make things even quicker than that? A lot of people that I talk to get an Excel spreadsheet right at the beginning of a job with all of the different items they need to submit by the end of the job. We can actually import that in through what we call the Expelling Logs here in Sage Construction Project Center. You import in that Excel spreadsheet. It shows all the different things you need to submit at any given point. From here, 2 things. I can assign who's going to be responsible to submit these items in here. So if you have a certain subcontractor or a certain project member that needs to get these items submitted, you mark them down as the responsible party. Those responsible parties then start getting notifications when it's time for things to be due. So let's say this particular submittal item is due on the job October 29th. We have a 5-day lead time, 10-day submittal review time. That means he has to turn in his submittal by 10/10, otherwise it's going to delay the job. The system will start notifying him 10 days before it's due, 5 days before it's due, and the day of to make sure that this stuff's being taken care of. We're going to notify your people and make sure they're getting done. But beyond that, I can then take these and turn them right into those submittals in my submittal log. So I'd no longer have to manually type up everything. I think I talked to a project assistant who says the first 2 weeks of the project, all she's doing is entering in submittals into the system. We can cut that down significantly by just having everything import in and then generate the files. And the only thing you have to do on your side then is say who's responsible and then have those people upload the documents into the system and send it.